Chapter 2. The Signal Source. The signal was faint, barely distinguishable from the cosmic background noise that filled the uninhabited sectors of space. Jack stared at the readout on his ship's console, his four-fingered hand hovering over the controls. A part of him told him to ignore it. Signals like this usually led to trouble, or worse, a wasted trip. But something about this one gnawed at him, a pull of curiosity he couldn't shake. Bad idea, Kiki's voice crackled through the ship's intercom. Her tone, a mix of sarcasm and exasperation, had become an oddly comforting constant in Jax's life. It's in an asteroid field. Your pathetic biological reflexes barely got us out of the last one alive. Jax sighed, running a hand through the dark plume feathers that crowned his head. If it's in an asteroid field, that means it's either trouble or treasure. And I could use some treasure right now. You mean after you wasted the last haul on that ridiculous food replicator upgrade? You're not even good at cooking. Jax smirked, flicking a switch to prepare the ship's maneuvering thrusters. I'm great at cooking. You're just jealous you don't have taste buds. Jealous of biological inefficiency? Please. The ship hummed as it changed course, plunging toward the coordinates of the mysterious signal. The asteroid field came into view moments later, a sprawling labyrinth of spinning rocks that glinted in the distant light of a dying star. Jax gripped the controls, his nails tapping rhythmically as he guided the ship through the treacherous maze. Kiki's drone hovered beside him, its single optic glowing a faint blue. Careful, she warned, though her tone suggested she would enjoy the opportunity to say, I told you so. Jax didn't respond, his focus locked on the massive shadow that began to take shape beyond the asteroids. It was a ship, ancient and colossal, its surface scarred by millennia of micrometeor impacts. The design was like nothing Jax had ever seen, sleek and angular, with faded insignias that hinted at a long-lost civilization. What in the void is that? He muttered, more to himself than to Kiki. Judging by the distress signal, I'd say it's trouble, Kiki replied. But you'll ignore me anyway, so go ahead. Waste your time. Jax ignored her and brought the ship closer, activating the external scanners. The data that came back was fragmented, corrupted by the ship's age and the interference from the asteroid field. But one thing was clear. The vessel was dormant, its systems running on minimal power. Looks like an old warship, Jax said, the weight of his father's stories pressing against his mind. Tales of destruction, of ships like this raining fire down on planets, flashed through his thoughts. Fantastic, Kiki said dryly. Let's board the ancient death machine. What could go wrong? Jax smirked, docking his ship near what appeared to be an access hatch. It's probably just a relic. Besides, it might be worth a fortune to a collector. Because biologicals love hoarding junk. Truly fascinating creatures. Jax ignored her and donned his gear, stepping into the airlock with Kiki hovering behind him. The hatch groaned as he forced it open, revealing a dark, cavernous corridor. His suit's lights flickered to life, illuminating walls covered in faded symbols and strange glyphs. Getting readings, Kiki said. Multiple biosignatures on board. Dormant, but present. Jax froze. Dormant? How many? Too many. Hundreds, maybe thousands. And judging by the design, they're not your species or any other I've logged. Congratulations, you found something new to screw up. Jax hesitated before pushing forward, despite the unease creeping up his spine. The corridor opened into a vast chamber lined with hibernation pods, their surfaces frosted over from countless years of stasis. He approached the nearest pod, wiping away the frost with a gloved hand. Inside was a figure unlike any he'd ever seen. Similar to his own, but clearly different. They're bipedal, Jax muttered. Kind of like my species. They look so strange, though. It's kind of hitting an uncanny valley. Don't get excited. Biologicals have a limited design template. 2 arms, 2 legs, and a pointless obsession with reproduction, Kiki quipped. Jax rolled his eyes and moved to another pod. This one had an interface panel flickering faintly. He couldn't resist the urge to investigate, his fingers brushing against the controls. The panel lit up suddenly, displaying unfamiliar characters that rearranged themselves into a language he could understand. Biometric data required for activation. What does that mean? Jax asked aloud. Don't ask me, Kiki said. But if I had to guess, it means don't touch anything. Naturally, you'll ignore me. Ignoring her, Jax placed his hand on the panel. A warmth shot through his palm as the system scanned him, and then the pod began to hum, lights flickering to life. Kiki's optic flared. Now you've done it. The pod's mechanisms whirred to life, releasing a hiss of pressurized gas as it began the process of awakening its occupant. Jax stumbled back, his heart pounding as he watched the figure inside stir. Slowly, the frost melted away, revealing a face, angular and fierce, with piercing eyes that fluttered open. For a moment, the figure stared at Jax, their lips moving in a language he couldn't understand. Then their expression shifted as they tilted their head, processing something. Analyze, upload, adjust, the figure murmured, their voice halting. Seconds later, they spoke again, this time in Jax's language. Who are you? Jax hesitated. I'm Jax. I found your ship. The figure straightened, stepping out of the pod with a grace that belied the stiffness of long stasis. You awoke me. Why? Accident, Jax said quickly. I didn't mean to. The figure held up a hand, silencing him. Alara, she said. I am Alara, of the human race. Jax blinked, the word sending a jolt through him. Human? But humans are a myth. A bedtime story. Alara's gaze hardened. We are no myth. We are the defenders of this galaxy. Or we were. What year is this? Jax hesitated, unsure how to answer. It's complicated. But it's said humans haven't been around for 1 billion years. Everyone thinks you went extinct. Alara's expression darkened, a mix of disbelief and dread. 1 billion years. No. If we've been gone that long, then they must have returned. Who? Jax asked, his voice trembling. Alara's eyes locked onto his, and the weight of her words settled over him like a storm. The Xylox. If I'm awake, it means they've come back. And if they're back, the entire galaxy is in grave danger. Jax's throat tightened, the enormity of the moment crashing over him. The myth of humans was real. The ancient enemy was real. And somehow, he had just awakened the galaxy's last line of defense.